Hey, everybody. Ooh, today is quite an interesting episode for you. I don't know why my energy has moved into a particular direction. I don't know why. I don't know how. I don't know from which energy came. But today, we've got a few segments on for you. I'm going to talk a little bit about Nassim Taleb and the herd mentality, how we can use some of his strategies to break out of the herd mentality. Then I talk a little bit about domestic politics. Ooh, I talk a little bit about race. Ooh, gets a little bit controversial. Then I talk about China. Then I talk about feminism at the end. I go on a tirade. I think it's worth a listen. And I think you should listen. So remember, like and subscribe on my YouTube channel at Taylor Stutch, Taylor space Stutch, Stuch. Follow me on Twitter, tstutch1. Email me, tayradio1@gmail.com, tayradio1@gmail.com. Follow me on Twitter, tstutch1, and enjoy the episode. All right, guys, how is everyone doing out there? So, first off, let's go ahead and jump right into it. The last episode, I talked about millennials being herd animals. Yeah, I know some people might not appreciate that, and like I said in that episode, boomers and Gen Xers, everybody, that's what we all are. We're all kind of herd mentality. What I want to do here is we want to break up the herd mentality. So how can we do that shit, guys? How can we break this up? I'm not sure, to be honest. I'm not 100% sure. Except that I know that it must be done. We must break our old habits and move into a new realm of independence, financially, creatively. We got to sort our shit out, man. Anyway, and if you want help sorting your shit out, then I highly recommend reading books like Nassim Taleb writes. Those are, in my opinion, any book written by Nassim Taleb is a great way to get started on your mission of becoming an independent thinker. So one thing that I guess I'll jump off here at this point is when it comes to thinking independently and kind of the herd kind of mentality, because I've been thinking about that a bit, is this. So I think too often we're looking for people to show us the pathway, the correct pathway, when in reality, and we all kind of know this to a degree, a lot of the best things that happen to us they just kind of happen while we're going in a particular direction. So it's not really our destination. It really is the journey. On the journeys where you kind of veer into crazy directions and discover new things about yourself, and maybe you start something new. But to break from the herd mentality is one thing that I thought about was about being right versus what happens if you're right or wrong. So Taleb talks about this in his books. That it's not about being right, but it's more or less about the effect, because you can be right and still lose everything in terms of trading or something like that. So the question is, what's your payoff for being right or for being wrong? And that's the one big thing about, or a big idea that permeates Taleb's writings and thoughts, is first order versus second, third order thinking. So first order thinking is like your direct plan per se, or what you think a stock will do or what you think a person will do. The second, third order effects is like the payoff. So, you think a stock will tank, but it tanks more than you thought, and whatever, financial situation you set up for it did not anticipate it going down that much. Well, you were right that it was going to decline, but you were wrong by the amount of magnitude, and the payoff of the situation could hurt you, even if you're right. So what I wanted to focus on real quick was being right versus being ready for payoffs. So millennials in the herd mentality, we're looking to be right too much, right? We're right. We're looking, in my opinion, too much to say, okay, what is the correct answer? So what should I do? What career should I follow? What career path should I follow? What job do I need? What social, hierarchical structure do I need to embed myself in? When really what we want to look at is not am I doing the right thing, but so much are what are my payoffs? So, and what are my payoffs as in like what's the downsides? What are the upsides? So like what do I have to lose? What do I have to gain? So one thing I really think that would help millennials more is if instead of saying, oh, am I doing the exact right thing? Because this is what I battle with currently. Am I doing the exact right thing? Or do I have my life set up so that I can afford to make mistakes, right? So that way I can stumble around and go in the direction I want. It doesn't have to be correct, but I can kind of bump into walls and not blow up, right? I can make a mistake on a project. I can invest in creating in tinkering or making a little company here or there. I can invest in those things with time and money and not blow myself up financially, right? And not destroy my ability to do work in the future. And I think that is one of my biggest takeaways from Nassim Taleb's philosophy is preparing yourself for the worst. So basically, instead of saying, am I taking the right path? Say, okay, I've insulated myself somewhat from the most, from a lot of negative situations, right? So maybe you've got some money stored away, you got a little bit of savings, you have a little bit, you have a place to go if you have no money, stuff like that. So once you have, and you also are willing to psychologically get there, when you can psychologically accept, a screw up or not having anything psychologically, then you can afford to take risks in trying out different things you want to try. And you don't have to be right? Because you could be right in terms of financially, I made the right decision by working for this company in terms of money, but you could hate your life, right? The payoff might not be worth it. So yes, you're making a lot of money, but maybe, you are taking on a lot of debt, you're taking on a mortgage, car payment, all kinds of other shit, and you're making a lot of money. So in certain ways, you made the right decision, but in other ways, you're very fragile. So I guess what I would say to people that are trying to break out of the herd mentality is first insulate yourself from the negative effects of decisions. Make sure you got some food stockpiled. Maybe not food stockpiled, but make sure you got some money stockpiled, some savings. Just make sure you've got your basic shit and needs cared for. And then from there, you can start detaching yourself from the herd behaviors, from the patterns that society wants to put you on. Because we all know that's what society wants. So now let's go on to the next segment. So I wanted to talk about this for a minute. We'll go a little bit political for a moment. So what's been going on this week? A couple things politically. So the Democrats are trying to impeach President Trump. It doesn't look like that's going to succeed. It looks like some witnesses that they had were never really legitimate. They didn't have enough information. And I got to be honest, I'm not surprised. So if you're listening to this and you're upset that I am not anti-Trump, sorry, that's just how it is. I have come to the conclusion that a lot of people have severe Trump derangement syndrome. And it was so funny. I heard, I didn't watch the testimonies myself, but this country is so divided. The people that hate Trump they believe everything the Democrats say. So they believe that, Trump colluded with Russia. They believe Trump colluded with Ukraine. They believe that Trump's taxes are going to show that, I don't know what they're looking for. Whatever it is, They they just think Trump is literally the devil incarnated. And I don't know how long this is going to last. And I don't know, I just don't understand how people can get sucked in to that line of thinking. Like, I get it. There's nothing wrong with being critical of the leader. In fact, I think everyone should be critical of our political leaders. I mean, you can hardly call them leaders. Most of them are absolute pieces of shit. Most of our political quote unquote leaders are garbage people. Most of them are not leaders at all. But that being said, I have no issue with people being critical of the president at all and shit talking, but it's just this stuff has gotten so out of hand, right? I mean, the guy, I don't think he committed any impeachable offense, and I think we're going to see that by next week, that there's not going to be anything that he will be able to be impeached for. What else is interesting is the stuff, the politics on the right. I might have addressed this already, but there was a division breaking up, or there was a division occurring on the right between some people that call themselves America First, and they're very concerned with demographic change. And I understand it. I'm not sure what I think about it totally. They are concerned about about white people. I guess some of them are concerned about the white demographic change. And so my perspective on this is a little nuanced, interesting. So inherently, I don't have any problem with any other races coming to the United States. There's no issue there. The problem that I have is the identity politics, where they say, oh, okay, so white people are responsible for everything bad that's ever happened. So let's bring in more, people from other countries so they can hate on white people. That's the problem that I have. So if the Democrats are able to persuade new immigrant voters who are, who target people for being white in order to vote in other ideas or to do certain things, that's where I think the America First section, like with Nick Fuentes and stuff, they have a point. There's another guy that made the point. I think it was Stephen Molyneux. Not a big fan of him anymore, but it is a good point. You can't talk about how good racial diversity is, but then tell everybody that they need to hate a particular racial group, like regardless of the group, right? And I would like to say that if you were, so we have a large Hispanic. There's a large Hispanic demographic in the U.S. I mean, Mexican, South American, Central American. So say that demographic becomes, say, 60% of the population, 70% of the population. Then in 100 years, a new demographic from like another part of the world, let's say Asia, let's say lots of people from Asia start coming in, right? So say the Hispanics are like, oh, we don't have a problem with that. But then a group of politicians and professors and cultural influencers say, hey, Hispanics are the problem in the country, right? So then Hispanics are going to say, okay, wait, well, we don't want too many non-Hispanics because everybody who's non-Hispanic believes that we're the enemy. So we can't have too many non-Hispanics come in. That is that's what I think is going on with certain groups when it comes to the white demographic question. Inherently, I think a lot of people, including myself, have no issue with diversity, racial diversity. What we have a problem with is when people start identifying with that race over the identifying with the country. And then they use their identification with their race to attack other races, whether it be white, Asian, Hispanic, no matter what it is. That's where the problem comes in. So a lot of people that are white, even though we are still the majority, or probably, we might not even be the majority, but I do understand people's concern because there is a lot of anti-white rhetoric at the lower cultural level. So when I say lower cultural level, I mean, TVs, movies, music, all that stuff, a lot of that. Up in the higher echelons of like the people that are running the show, they don't give a shit about diversity, but all of us need to have diversity. You see what I'm saying? So, anyway, it's just an interesting situation. And people are going after like Michelle Malkin for agreeing with America First, and she's holding her own pretty good. So let's hold over for some ads, and I'll be right back. Hey guys, have you heard about Anchor? You probably have. In fact, you may have heard about it just before you're hearing about it now. But I want to tell you guys, I have been using Anchor to make my podcast for a little while now, and I really like it. They have lots of different things we can do. So what is it exactly? What do they provide? Well, for one, obviously it's free. They have a creation tool that allows you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. I've had to use this multiple times. You make a podcast, you want to edit some stuff out, you can use their tool directly from the app or in the computer. And Anchor will distribute your podcast for you, so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many other platforms. This is one of the best things that I like about Anchor, is that they automatically distribute your podcast to different platforms all over the internet. So download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. Okay, so let's talk about a little bit US and China. Oh my goodness. What's going on with the US and China? So we all know what's going on to a degree. There's a big trade war. There's an article that came out today that everyone should pay attention to, whether or not you like this man or not. His name's Henry Kissinger, and he said some stuff that people are paying attention to. He said, here's the article. This is from MarketWatch. Kissinger says failure to mend U.S.-China trade relations would be worse than world wars that ruined European civilization. So, Henry Kissinger, the former Secretary of State and National Security Advisor under Nixon and Ford, has dire warnings about the inability of U.S. and China to resolve their differences on international trade. Speaking at a committee, Kissinger said intensifying Sino-American conflicts would potentially be worse than world wars, and added that a prolonged spat could have a catastrophic outcome. The 96-year-old Bavarian-born historian and practitioner of Realpolitik, who argues that foreign policy should be based on maintaining a balance of power between nations rather than ideology, is credited with helping the U.S. resolve China differences in the 1970s. Okay, don't need to know about the history, already know about the motherfucking history. So, what did he say exactly, though? Kissinger's comments come as White House economic advisor said that negotiators are getting close to an agreement, but President Donald Trump wasn't yet ready to sign off. Trump likes what he sees and is not ready to make a commitment. So basically, I guess what we're getting from this is that Henry Kissinger is warning that if the United States and China don't get their shit together, we could see big problems. So, of course, I think we all kind of agree with this. I agree. I think that the U.S., I think it's good we're playing hardball with China at a national level when it comes to, IP theft and things like that. I think we should. And, yeah, I mean, I think absolutely we should. That being said, I've said before, China's doing what China should be doing. China is trying to become a major world power. They already are a major world power. They're trying to dislodge the United States from being number one. I think that they're doing exactly what they should do. And I think in the United States, we have been so fat and happy for so long. We are over-leveraged. We are extremely vulnerable. And I do agree that if we did get into a conflict, I mean, that would be horrible. Right? Like, imagine if the U.S. and China got into a conflict. We both have nuclear weapons. China has the